So hi everyone. So I'm a software engineer at Dagger, and I want to present a new feature that I've been working on since quite a long time, which is called context directory. Before that, though, I want to share like a quick story, like why we developed context directory and what problem it solves. So if you have already worked with Dagger, I'm pretty sure you can recognize that kind of pattern. If you work with Go indeed, but it will be the same in TypeScript and Python or any other community SDK. But usually when you do a module for your CI, you take a source as a directory as input. So you can execute function on. So this is a usual pattern that you have. We actually have the same in our Dagger module. And this is usually the Dagger command you will enter when you wanna, for example, run the test. So Dagger call, so that just shows them your test. So you're gonna forward as input your current directory. And it has always been like that. You always need to provide the directory you wanna execute your function on. And this is good, actually. This is nice because as interlink or like any other community module, you want to allow people to send a specific directory as input. But what about the module that you have in private? So this is a two different type of module you can do. What about the private module that, for example, you use for your CI? This is something we do at Dagger. We have a dev module that is not public. It's exclusively used for running our tests, generating our SDK, etc. And this, for that kind of modules, the input, the directory input is static. It's usually the same every time. And so here is an example with our current Dagger module. And we came up with a solution with views. So maybe some of you already used it. It's a way to basically filter some directory by creating views in your Dagger JSON. And then when you do a call, you will do, for example, Dagger call, -m dev call, and you can do like dot and put a view here. And this is going to use this view and exclude all these patterns. This is cool, but it's kind of a lot of work to support views for every function, especially if you have like different requires for some of them. For example, you have CI for backend, CI for frontend, everything in one module. You don't want to create like X views for X function. So we came up with a solution, which is context directory. So this is an example of the code. Indeed, I'm going to do a demo. The idea is that you can directly from the code get what you need. For example, here, I want to get the backend source directory. So I can use the metadata default path and use the /backend, so the path to the backend. And I can add some ignore, which are compliant with the .get ignore syntax. I'm going to cover that just after. You can also include your current directory. And so one of your questions might be, okay, what is a slash and what is a dot? What is relative? What is root? So I prepared a quick schema. This is a simple tree view. And so we have two things. We have the context directory and we have the root directory. The context directory accessible from slash is where your .get belongs. So it's the root of your repository, because maybe your CI module is somewhere else, like in a subdirectory. So with context directory, you have a way to access the root of your repository from the code itself. And if you want to access something inside your module, so where your dagger.json belongs, here, you can use the relative path. So there is two different paths. And indeed, if your dagger.json is at the root of your repo, the slash and the relative path will be the same. And you can use ignore to remove entries from the input. So you can use only what you need. And as I said, ignore is compliant with the .get ignore syntax, meaning that if you had an exclamation point before something, you will actually include this for this directory. While if you don't have the exclamation point, you're gonna exclude something. And bonus point, it also works with file. So like if you have some config files that you want to include every time you run a function, you don't have to set it as input anymore. You can just use the context directory feature. I'm going to show a demo after so you can see. So why this is useful? First, it removes parameter from the CLI. You no longer need to provide your repo as input. Why? Because this is going to be the default input now. So you can just do Dagger call test, and backend, frontend, and module will be filled with your directive, so with default path and the ignore. Second cool thing, those directories are loaded before the function is called. So it's easily cacheable, and it has a like some point of optimization at this point. So your module should be faster thanks to this. Especially because also you can choose to include only files that may not change that often. For example, you will not include your .git, which is probably the directory that change the most in your repo. So you can exclude it directly, meaning that it will be cached more often. And the third point, which is super cool, is that the function chooses what it needs, and it can ignore the rest. So you reverse the dynamic. You don't create views to send as input to a function. Your function will actually explicitly say, okay, I need this and that, and it will be filtered automatically. So it will really improve the DX and also the speed, and overall you should have a better time with Dagger thanks to this, especially if you have a lot of input. So demo time. So I took the greeting API, which is a simple API that Kyle made for demo, and I basically tried to convert it to context directory. So I just updated Dagger JSON to a new version. Something I didn't precise, a context directory is still in development. It's not merge nor release. So it's more a new date. But if you want to keep track of what's happening with this feature, there is a peer I'm going to link after. So we got a module with like a couple of functions. Like if I do Dagger function, we should have like test, lint, build, serve, release, and deploy. And before using context directory, if I want to call test, for example, I need to do Dagger call test and provide the source. And for every function, every time I want to do something, I need to provide the source. So it's kind of like redundant and it doesn't feel really right. So that's why we made this now. We made the context directory. So I provide the default path, which is /, so my whole repo, and I will choose to ignore everything that I don't need. So to run test, I will take benefit from the include pattern, which is, as I said, adding an exclamation point to only include my Go mod, my Go sum, and my Go files. So I don't need, for example, the website directory or the .github.circle.ci or anything. And so now I can just do Dagger call test, and automatically the input will be filled. So that's super cool. Most of the input I saw when I was working with module was sources or files and stuff like that. You can get rid of this thanks to this feature, and so it will be approximately the same for every other function, and it feels way better to not forward any argument when I call a function. It feels like a makefile, but way better because it's done in Go and with Dagger. So same for the build. Basically, got the same UX, like our build, and let's say build here, and so I can build my function. And oh yeah, I forgot something. So you can still give other parameters. It's not going to be an issue. It's just like the source will have a default one set to the context, to the contextual argument that you said. Okay, so this is for my demo. It's pretty simple because the feature does not change that much in your module. Which makes it super easy to adopt, but it really changes the DX after. And so what's coming next? We would like to add the ignore directive on any directory, not just contextual, meaning that when I talk about public and private modules, like the context directory thing will be way more appropriate for private module than public. But when we will be able to adds this ignore directive, the public module will also take benefit from it, because they will be able to filter what they need to execute the function, no matter where the directory or file come from. And there is also a small issue with contextual argument for submodule dependency. So I'm actively working on it, and once this is done, we're going to release the feature. So stay updated, and hope you will find this feature very useful. Something I forget to precise, it's the link of the peer, this one 7744. So if you want to get more update or just try the feature right now after the community call, feel free to give it a shot and give me some opinion in comments, and I will be more than happy to pick them up. So thanks, and hope I've not been too long. So yeah, thank you everyone.